It's that time of year again. March Madness is upon us. The brackets just got set, and I'm going to tell you right now, this video is not going to tell you who you should pick, because based on the teams that are in the tournament this year from what I've seen, I think there's going to be a lot of 1 and 2 possession games, and there's no way to tell who's going to win. So all I'm trying to do in this video is help you make educated decisions so that you can make the best decisions for your bracket. I'm going to tell you about all 4 teams in each seed, starting with the 1, then going to the 16, and I'll go back and forth until we get to those 8-9 seeds. So good luck, because we're all going to need it. UConn is the defending national champ, and they look like they can make another run. Their starting center, Donovan Clingan, came back to try and repeat, and he is a monster in the middle, and they run a really nice offensive concept with a ton of stagger screens that confuses defenses and leads to a ton of wide open shots. North Carolina still has their man in the middle, Armando Bacot, and he's looking to win that championship that he lost against Kansas 2 years ago. They also have stud guard RJ Davis, who is a walking bucket, and they're looking for revenge. Houston is coming in as the #1 defensive team in the country. They are absolutely suffocating on this end. They're going to trap ball screens, they're going to fly around and force a lot of turnovers. They're coming off of the worst loss of the year in the Big 12 championship versus Iowa State, so we'll see how they respond. Purdue is coming off of a disappointing early exit from last year's tournament, but they are still focused around their 7'4" player of the year, Zach Edey. They also have a phenomenal point guard who runs the show in Braden Smith, and if you leave Fletcher Lawyer wide open, he's gonna hurt you. Will this be the year of redemption? Stetson got in after winning their conference tournament when in the semifinal game, Swenson hit this 3, and then in the championship versus Austin Peay, they had a pretty easy win. I would expect them to run some of this zone that they had some success with and see if they can find a way to shock the nation and be a Cinderella story. Howard won a couple of really close games in the MEAC tournament to advance to the dance, and they're going to need some really productive scoring from their 3 main guys, Bryce Harris, Seth Towns, and Marcus Dockery. Wagner won the Northeast Conference tournament and punched their ticket, and they could very likely try and junk up this game in the first round. They like to press off of makes and free throws, and they also like to run a zone that oftentimes creates a lot of turnovers, so it'll be interesting to see if they try and junk this first game up. Longwood comes into the March Madness tournament in a fashion that everybody dreams of. They were playing the #1 seed High Point in the semifinal game of their conference tournament, and Napper hit this game-winning 3. Welcome to the dance. Montana State caught lightning in a bottle and ended up winning the Big Sky tournament. They've got great balanced scoring on their team, but Robert Ford III is definitely their guy, and he can get it going in a hurry. Grambling State punched their ticket by winning the conference championship, and their scoring hasn't been consistent most of the year, so they're really going to rely on Kentavious Dozier and Tremichael Moten to step up if they want to make it to the round of 32. Iowa State might be the hottest team in the country right now. They, just like Houston, have a phenomenal defense that revolves around pressuring the ball, being in gaps, and forcing a ton of turnovers. Can this defense get them to a Final Four or even a national championship? Is this year their year? Arizona ended up landing North Carolina transfer Caleb Love, and he has been phenomenal this year, averaging over 18 points a game. He's their go-to guy. But they are so balanced offensively, they have 5 guys who average double figures, and they're going to be tough to beat. Marquette is in a unique situation. They have one of the best point guards in the country in Tyler Kolek, but unfortunately he's been sidelined with an injury for a few weeks. They still found a way to get to their conference championship and lost to UConn, but the question is, will they have their point guard, and how far can they make it if they don't? Tennessee has been difficult to score on the entire year. They're long, they're athletic, and they defend at all 5 positions. They had an early exit in the SEC tournament, losing in the first round as the #1 seed, but their soon-to-be NBA wing, Dalton Knecht, is 14th in the country in scoring, and he has the ability to take over a game. South Dakota State won their conference tournament, and they have some notable wins on their resume. Their go-to guard, Zeke Mayo, is another one of those elite guys who can do it all. This is a team you should not sleep on. You don't hear stories like the one from Long Beach State very often. A few weeks ago, the athletic director told head coach Dan Munson he would be fired at the end of the year, and it galvanized this entire team. They won the tournament, and now they're dancing. Western Kentucky has had their struggles offensively, but they're in the tournament because of how good they are defensively. They get a lot of deflections and steals, and they're going to want these games in the tournament to be low-scoring affairs. St. Peter's is remembered for their special run in the tournament, and they're back again this year, and it's because of their defense. They're not big, but they're scrappy, they're athletic, they get into passing lanes, and they're going to try and turn you over a lot. Illinois is led by their superstar, Terrence Shannon Jr., who just got finished having a 40-point game, and their team just won the Big Ten tournament. The guy who keeps them steady is Marcus Damask, and he is smooth, he's under control, he scores it in big moments, and he gets his teammates involved when he needs to. Baylor has quietly been a very solid team this year. They have a rotation of 6 players, and all of them average double figures. But their leading scorer, Jacoby Walter, is going to need to have a great tournament if this team wants to make a deep run. Kentucky has 2 potential lottery picks coming off the bench. 2 freshmen in Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepard. This team can score with anybody in the country, but will their defense be solid enough to make a run in this tournament? Creighton has a ton of firepower. They've got the big man in the middle, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and they have a 3-point specialist in Baylor Shireman, and at the end of the game, Trey Alexander will have the ball in his hands, and he proved during the tournament that he can hit big shots when he needs to. Morehead State won the OVC this year, and they did it on the back of their defense. They have really good ball screen coverage, and they also have Riley Minix, who was the OVC Player of the Year, who can flat out get buckets. Colgate just won the Patriot League Conference Tournament for the 4th year in a row. Texas, Wisconsin, Arkansas. Those are the last 3 teams that they played in the first round. Will this year be the first time they get a win? Oakland's had a really good year, and they move the ball exceptionally well. They have a lot of guys who can score it, but when they really need a bucket, especially a 3, they've got a guy named Jack Golke, who's one of the best 3-point shooters in the country. Akron by far had the craziest ending to their conference tournament. They were up by 1 when Kent State drove in, missed this layup, and got a putback layup to go up, and on the ensuing inbound, Kent State fouled them. They went to the free throw line and the game was over. Watch out for the Auburn Tigers. They just won the SEC Conference Tournament, and they blew out Florida. They are defensive-minded, and they know how to get stops. And on the offensive end, Janai Broome is an absolute dog. He is on the glass, he is physical, he's tough. And if this team is putting up points with that defense, they're going to be tough. If you think offense wins in March, well, Alabama's got tons of that. They average over 90 points a game. They play fast, and their point guard, Mark Sears, has had a breakout year, has led this team, and he is tough to stop and is probably going to take over in this tournament. There's a lot of question marks around Duke this season. Yes, they have a lot of talent, but they need for their sophomore All-American Kyle Filipowski to step up, and they're going to need a great tournament from their freshman sniper, Jared McCain. This has been a crazy year for Kansas basketball. Michigan transfer Hunter Dickinson helped them get off to a dominating start, but they've lost 4 out of their last 5 games. Will this be a year that you can bet on Kansas getting knocked out early, or will Bill Self get it figured out like he usually does? Yale is your Ivy League Conference Tournament champion, and they won it on this buzzer beater that had the entire gym going crazy. We'll see what they can do in the dance. Charleston comes into this game having won their last 12 in a row. They love to shoot the 3, and they average making over 10 per game. And number 2, Smith, is a lefty, and he can absolutely light it up. Vermont won the Big Sky Conference Tournament, and they only lost 1 conference game the entire year. They have a very balanced offense. They do a great job of off-ball movement and playing through their big, and they have a bunch of guys who average right around 10 points per game. Samford is another team that quietly had a phenomenal year, winning 29 games and their conference tournament, and this guy right here, Anchor, is the man of their team. Only playing 22 minutes a game, he averages 16 points and 6 rebounds. San Diego State is tough. They play great defense and they're anchored by their forward Jaden Ledee, who is the best player on that team that lost in the national championship last year to UConn. This team also is coming off of a loss in the conference championship to New Mexico, so it'll be interesting to see how they rally. After years of finishing second to Gonzaga, St. Mary's finally won the West Coast Conference, and it's because of their defense. They really know how to defend as a team, and they're going to be tough to score on. They're also very efficient offensively. Wisconsin made it to the championship of the Big Ten tournament and lost to Illinois. Their offense is so well balanced, they move the ball well, they can shoot the three, they can score it in the post, they've got some guys who can make mid-range jump shots, and they can score out of ball screens. Gonzaga was kind of forgot about this year, but they have the same record as one of the 1 seeds. Ryan Nembhard transferred from Creighton, and he's been great at the point guard all year, but Graham Ike is their guy, and I would expect him to dominate in this tournament. UAB has a really nice 1-2 punch. On the inside, they've got Lindeborg, who is physical and he's gritty and very tough to keep out of the paint. And on the outside, you've got Eric Gaines, who can not only score it, but he facilitates really well and gets everybody involved. Grand Canyon quietly had one of the best records in the country, and it's because of this guy, Tyon Grant Foster. He's a transfer from Kansas that gets to the free throw line and the paint at will, and teams are gonna have to game prep to try and stop this guy. James Madison won their conference tournament and punched their ticket to the dance, which should not be a surprise since they have fewer losses than anybody else in the country with 3. They showed signs early in the year that this could be a special season when they beat Michigan State on the road. This is definitely a Cinderella prospect. Ever since Will Wade took over the program at McNeese State, they've been on a tear. They won 30 games this year. They've blown teams out and have the highest margin of victory out of anybody in the country at almost 20 points per game. This is definitely a team that could go deep into the tournament. If you like 3-point shooting, then you're going to like BYU's team. They run this unique double zoom action that's really hard to guard, and they shoot more threes than anybody else in the country. Their success could really be dependent on their matchup because they live and die with that 3 ball. Clemson's led by their senior forward, PJ Hall. They run a lot of plays for him to get post seals and duck-ins in the paint, and he scores it at a really high clip. They've also got Joseph Girard on the perimeter who can knock down shots, so they're going to rely heavily on these 2 guys in the tournament. Grant McCaslin in his first year at Texas Tech has the Red Raiders playing really well. Pop Isaacs is their go-to guy, and most teams who win in March typically have a dude who can fill it up like him. Offensively, South Carolina has a 3-headed monster. BJ Mack, Colin Murray Boyles, and Michi Johnson are very difficult to contain, and with the exception of their 2 blowout losses to Auburn, they've been playing really well. Duquesne was the winner of the A-10 conference tournament, and they've got a 2-headed monster in Day-Day Grant and Jimmy Clark, and I'm going to tell you right now, these 2 can get it going in a hurry. They could cause some real problems in the tournament. New Mexico State has Obi Toppin's younger brother JT Toppin on their team. He's a high-flying athlete, he can stretch the floor, and he's top 10 in the country in field goal percentage, and New Mexico just won the conference championship in the tournament. NC State just punched their ticket by knocking out their rival North Carolina in the conference championship. You only need to remember one name, DJ. DJ Burns and DJ Horn are 2 exceptional scorers who are playing their best basketball right now in March. Oregon's been running a very effective 2-3 zone that looks a lot like old school Syracuse because of the length they have on the back row. If teams struggle to shoot it well, this could cause some real problems. Washington State has a 2-headed monster in Miles Rice, their guard, and their forward Isaac Jones. These 2 get into a lot of ball screens with each other, they play 2-man game, and they're tough to stop. Dayton's coming off of an emotional week after winning against VCU in overtime and then losing in the championship. Deron Holmes had 24 and 13 and they couldn't find a way to win, but he's going to attract a ton of attention, which means probably double teams, and the rest of their guys are going to have to step up and make shots. Florida's been really good this year offensively. Their defense has just been inconsistent. Expect the ball to be in Walter Clayton Jr.'s hands a lot. He's the guy that makes them go, and he can really fill it up. It's important to note that they did just lose their center to injury. Texas is loaded with talent and it can be overlooked because they played in the Big 12. But between Tyrese Hunter, Dylan Dessou, and one of the tournament stars last year, Max Amos, this team can really get it going. Drake is another one of those mid-major teams that you shouldn't write off. They beat Indiana State in the conference tournament, who everybody thought was going to be dancing, and they are led by their guard, Tucker DeVries, who's the coach's son, and he can really score it. Nevada has a guy named Keenan Lucas who draws a lot of attention that allows guys like Jared Lucas to get these rhythm threes. Offensively, this team's got some firepower, and Nick Davidson is a big-time athlete who can really impact the game. Boise State is a bit unconventional. Tyson Degenhart, Omar Stanley, and Cam Martin are all power forwards that love to score with their back to the basket, so you're going to see them throw the ball into the post a lot. So as you're making your decisions, I would look at the other team's post defense. Colorado got an at-large bid after making it to the championship of the Pac-12 tournament. With two potential first-round draft picks in Cody Williams and Tristan Da Silva, they have all the firepower they need to make a deep run in this tournament. Virginia's lost 5 of their last 10 games, but Reese Beekman is still their guy, and he's a great scorer, and they have a young guy named Ryan Dunn who could easily have a really good breakout tournament. It's hard to ever count out that Virginia defense or Tony Bennett in the tournament. Colorado State is a must-watch in this tournament because of Isaiah Stevens. When it comes to one-on-one, there's very few guys better than him in the country. And not only can he score it, but he's third in the country in assists, so you can't just focus on him. FAU made one of those Cinderella runs last year, and they bring back the experience of John L. Davis, who is a great guard, and they have the big fella Vlad Golden, who showed how dominant he could be last year in the tournament. Mississippi State has 2 of the best defensive forwards in the country. Tolu Smith, who missed some time, and Cameron Matthews are absolutely dominant on the defensive end. Between blocks, steals, and rebounds, you're going to have a hard time scoring on this team. Nebraska is a must-watch because of Keisei Tominaga. People are calling him the Japanese Steph Curry, and it's probably not too misguided. This team has a legit chance to make a run in this tournament, and they are fun to watch. Utah State led the Mountain West Conference this year, and they play fast and score a lot of points. Their stud forward, Great Asabor, is going to attract a lot of attention and probably double teams. The biggest question mark for this team is, can they knock down threes, because they've struggled all year with it. Northwestern is one of my personal favorites because of how well they run their Princeton offense. They know how to cut and move, and they have shooters and great passers that play the forward. And in a close game, you have to have somebody step up, and Boo Buie is an absolute gamer. Michigan State is going to rely on their guy and their All-American Tyson Walker. Michigan State struggled this year and hasn't looked like the teams that they've had in the past, but with Tyson, they always have an opportunity because he is a flat-out winner. The only 2 words you need to know about Texas A&M is offensive rebounding. They are the #1 team in the country when it comes to offensive rebounding and second chance points, so expect their toughness to carry them through the tournament. TCU is probably the fastest team in college basketball. Their high-pressure defense leads to a lot of steals, which leads to a lot of transition buckets. This team is going to get out, play fast, and probably score a lot of points.